Really excited to introduce our first performer tonight. He is a very private person, but despite that, I'm going to tell you a little bit about him. He is, I think, one of the most talented young writers in New York City, or really anywhere. You can see over 100 of his short stories for free online on miraclejones.com. He is a Sagittarius. He is from Texas. He works for War Books, which is an independent independent press here in New York. Shout out to War, because he guys do amazing work. And we're really excited to have him here. He's going to read some reality show fan fiction for you tonight. Please welcome to the stage Miracle Jones!
Hello, everybody. Okay, so we all watched The Bachelor, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Fair enough. Okay, so I'm doing this thing where I'm taking 10 different corporations and I'm writing a short story about each one. So I've done Amazon, Caterpillar, Google, and I'm working on an Apple right now, but this is my Disney story. And as we all know, Disney owns The Bachelor. It's a Disney product. So, and everybody knows who Chris Harrison is, right?
Yeah.
Okay. No? Alright. Alright. Everybody, he is the host of television's The Bachelor. And so this is a little Chris Harrison fan fiction for you guys. He's a very charismatic man, so imagine one of those. So this is called Next Week on The Bachelor. Alright. E-Bachelor theme song by Jason Laney. Every time a rooster in the pit screeched as a razor split its face or tore a tendon in its leg, Chris Harrison, host of television's The Bachelor and also The Bachelorette, felt a wave of relaxation pass through his shoulders, sloughing off another wave of crystallized tension. His whole body was an onion made of frustration and disappointment, and the vicious cockfight in the basement of this North Dallas Dairy Queen was the only thing that could reach him right now. Even though his rooster rose ceremony was pinned into a corner and bleeding to death, it was all worth it. Your rooster is gonna lose, said Ashford Louise Levy, also known as Dip, on account of the large wad of dip that always made his lower lip pooch out. Ashford Louise Levy spat into the dust away from the fighting roosters, while Chris Harrison leaned far over the side of the pit, stretching out the arms of the green silk shirt that fit him like mold on a peach. Come on, goddammit, seethed Chris Harrison. Don't worry about your eyes, Rose. You don't need your eyes. Eyes are a crutch. Your rooster is gonna die today, said Ashford Louise Levy. I tried to buy him, but you wanted to make some kind of point. And now your rooster, your beloved Rose Ceremony, is gonna die. Chris Harrison had raised the pit rooster from birth. He'd spent thousands breeding him, training him, and building the reputation for this monthly fight in this run-down Dairy Queen so that he would have a place to show him off. The razors attached to the rooster's talons were from Chris Harrison's own shaving kit. There was nothing he could do. This wasn't his town. He was going to leave, and all these people would be left behind. He suspected that Ashford Louise Levy had drugged his rooster somehow before the fight. There was no excuse for how lethargic and cowardly Rose Ceremony was being. Chris Harrison's phone rang. Not his regular phone, not his sleek, ergonomic smartphone black and cold like a shard from a volcano. His Disney phone. The pink, rhinestone-encrusted phone had served as a direct line between him and the Bachelor and Bachelorette television programs, which he'd been hosting for 20 years now. The phone with the Mickey Mouse LED screen. The Disney phone did not have a vibrate function. It played When You Wish Upon a Star at full volume. There was no way to turn it off except by answering it. Chris Harrison answered the phone automatically, his eyes never leaving the violent thrashing that his rooster was receiving in the pit. Yes, said Chris Harrison. It was Judy Pickering, the head writer of The Bachelor. They dated in college, back when he was on his soccer scholarship and studying broadcast journalism. He wanted to work for the government, maybe the CIA or maybe the FBI. She wanted to be a writer, a real writer. Now she was married to her job in LA and he was in a pit watching roosters kill each other. Christ, said Judy. He's gone cad. Cad was the term that Disney gave to any bachelor who was always a bachelor, who went rogue and actually started fucking the contestants behind the scenes, not wanting to wait for the 3 chances in the fantasy suites that Disney would provide at the end of each season. Technically, this wasn't against any of the rules. Technically, there weren't any rules. Disney was merely trying to help a man with a 90% human likability index or higher meet his wife by presenting him with 25 willing young ladies and letting this man test them, torture them, and eliminate them one by one until he was ready to propose. But cads had to be managed. He pressed all the buttons on the elevator on the way to dinner at the top of the Space Needle and convinced Jennifer Kay to blow him between floors. She was sobbing about it during her confessional because he didn't even give her the rose. Can you believe that horseshit? She blows him and then won't give her the rose. We actually took him in the back and explained how this was going to look. He didn't care. He was quite pleased with himself. He knows we will edit it all out so he looks good. This guy seriously has a 95% likability index? This guy? That's what Disney says. Which one is Jennifer Kay again? She teaches preschool to special needs children. Right, said Chris Harrison. How does she test? She's got a likability index of about 67. Everybody knows she won't make it in the end, but she's sort of beloved on account of her weird haircut. Oh, right, said Chris Harrison. The one with the asymmetrical bangs. Anyway, we sent her home, but this is like the 5th time in 2 weeks. It is chaos here. What if word spreads to the hen house? We can have a walkout. I will be there in 4 hours, said Chris Harrison. Rose Ceremony was cowering in the corner, protecting his eyes, while Ashford Luis Levy's trim bantam slashed him and strutted around him in a circle. Chris Harrison stepped into the pit. The crowd gasped. He separated the roosters by kicking dirt at them, and then brought the hard heel of his cowboy boot down on the blind rooster, crushing his cracker-thin skull as Dip laughed and clapped and cursed him, both in English, Hebrew, and Spanish. The woman next to him on the plane recognized him. She kept asking him details about the current season. Oh, she was a proud citizen of Bachelor Nation. She was basically an admiral in the Bachelor Nation Navy. Me too, by the way. She seemed to know that they were already filming. She wanted to know if the Bachelor was as sweet in person as he seemed on TV. Ma'am, I get this question all the time, said Chris Harrison. You want to know if we set anything up, or if any of the girls are plants, or the whole thing is staged. The truth, the absolute truth, is that everything we do is real. It's the easiest job in the world. I can't believe my luck. We help people find true love. It doesn't always work out, but we try, don't we? You have to believe in it. The woman sighed and tried to hint that her own marriage was on the rocks. Chris Harrison got up to use the bathroom, talked to the stewardess, got his seat reassigned, and instantly fell into a sleep so deep, dreamless, and dark, and it was like having his mind scooped out and replaced with a wool sweater. How's the narrative? Asked Chris Harrison, pouring himself a cup of coffee at the Bachelor Command Center, the craft services table where the 5 camera teams reconvened each evening to discuss each day's conflicts and events, and to draft memos on how their individual strands could be weaved together by the expert editors waiting in air-conditioned rooms in the Magic Kingdom. Chris Harrison had handpicked each of these camera crews, selecting the sort of silent, angry punks that he himself had been when he was in his early 20s. Many of them had terrible drug problems. The narrative is tight, said a woman who had legally changed her name to Propane so that everyone would have to call her Pro. She was wearing a t-shirt that said, "Child safe" across the chest. The narrative is kick. The narrative is beast. What is child safe? Asked Chris Harrison. Oh, it's this non-profit, said Pro. Everyone in your generation works for some kind of non-profit, said Chris Harrison. That's America's future, isn't it? Non-profit. The narrative was all important driving force behind each season in The Bachelor. They weren't making a television show here, they were making romance novels. Each season was forged by the crucible of market forces, manipulated by scarcity, guided by the economics of scale, and crafted by rational choice operations. Love as capitalism, love as Chicago school economics. Each season had a natural momentum with a clear beginning, middle, and end, a situation as composed and powerful as great literature. In fact, they were better than literature. Romance novels ended. Each season of The Bachelor was an ongoing property that lived a staggering life beyond the confines of each formal conclusion. Each successful relationship that the series produced was a testament to the precision of the process. Each broken dream was a devastating tragedy that confirmed the worst about love, relationships, and television, and made the audience even more enraptured with the series. If God is love, then The Bachelor was a show about the journey to find God. We're making realies, muttered Chris Harrison. Everything's realies these days. Though you know it's all gonna be realies from here on out? Realies all the way down. What's a really? Asked Propane, ever attentive to the cultural cachet of freshly minted slang. Ha! I didn't know you were even listening, said Chris Harrison. Just be glad the camera isn't on, said Pro. 100 years ago, people stopped watching silent films and started watching movies where people talked, said Chris Harrison, remembering his own childhood, remembering the last drive-in movie theater in Jacksboro, Texas, where the sound for the picture came from the radio in your car. The talkies killed the silent films, said Chris Harrison. The narrative possibilities of movies with real speech or crack cocaine in a world filled with pixie sticks. But realies are even stronger. Oh, our realies are all fake, but those are real moments within the confines of the fake structures we build. Nowadays, to sell narrative, not only must it be a movie, not only must it be a talkie, it's also gotta be a really. Your ideas are always so totally fucked up and awesome and mean, said Pro. Anyway, the narrative for this really is good as hell. There's this girl named Jennifer P. who is outstanding. We had 3 Jennifers actually, but he fucked the other 2 ones and then ditched them. Jennifer P. works at a beauty shop, and get this, she went to elementary school with him, and he doesn't remember her, even though she's had a crush on him for like 20 years. He keeps saying she looks so familiar. She keeps breaking down in front of the camera in private. It is totally lasso, it is totally drug. Chris Harrison knocked back the dregs of a pot of coffee that was as black and thick and greasy as bacon breakfast dishwater. So, he's fucking all of them, asked Chris Harrison, every chance he gets? Oh, totes, said Pro. He is cad to the max. How come this is the first I've heard of it, asked Chris Harrison. Well, it's only week 3, said Pro. Tell me something, asked Chris Harrison. Has he advanced any of the women that he has seduced? Has he given out a single rose to any lady who's given in to him? Propane thought about it, running her long fingers through her hair. Wow, she said. I guess not. Wow, this dude is totally dark. Chris Harrison tightened his skinny necktie, getting himself psychologically ready to drop another date card. Be cool, Chris Harrison, he told himself. It's just like a penalty kick. Don't think about scoring. Think about maintaining control of the ball after the kick. Think about what happens next. He's a cad. We'll handle it. Disney people will put on the pressure. Everything will work out. It always does, says Propane. Don't worry, dude. A scandal will only make Bachelor Nation trust us more. It can't work out every single time. Nothing works out every single time. Chris Harrison thought about an article he'd read about the way pedophiles selected their victims. They worked their way into positions of power where they had access to a large group of trusting children. They were patient. They became priests, football coaches, guidance counselors, casting directors, politicians. They started with light touching. They saw which children tattled and which parents reacted. They narrowed down their selection. They moved into more heavy wrestling and touching. Some parents were so oblivious that even if their kids complained, they did nothing. Some of the children were so trusting and lonely that they seemed numb. They couldn't handle the feelings. The sad, smart ones were the best. You could get them on your side. The predators narrowed down their victim pool to find someone completely malleable and completely unprotected. This season's Bachelor was hunched over in a leather love seat, naked to his waist, sweating from the cocaine and whiskey in his blood, playing old emulated Nintendo Tetris at full volume and screaming at the massive flat-screen television every time one of his blocks went awry. "Come on, you whore!" he shouted, throwing his head back. The windows of his bachelor mansion rattled every time a line of blocks disappeared. Knocking wasn't working, so Chris Harrison used the silver door key that Disney had provided him, just in case the Bachelor was so hungover he couldn't make it to a photo shoot or a charity luncheon and needed to be dragged bodily to a limousine. Chris Harrison walked across the room and pulled the plug on the television. The Bachelor stared at Chris Harrison with big, sad eyes. "I was doing better than I ever did," said the Bachelor coldly. "We need to talk," said Chris Harrison. "You can play later." "Okay," said the Bachelor. It's cool. What's up? Chris Harrison tried to size the Bachelor up, trying to get some kind of sense of the best way to proceed. You want a little powder? Asked the Bachelor, also nervous. Something to drink? No thanks, said Chris Harrison. More for me, said the Bachelor. There's such a thing as too much cocaine, said Chris Harrison. Man, dude, people are giving you free cocaine to fuck girls on TV in front of their parents in all of America. Should probably do that free cocaine and fuck those girls. I mean, someday I will be in an old folks home and people will be telling stories about how they killed Arabs in Iraq and stuff, and it will be my turn to tell a story, and I'd better have some good ones. Like about the time you did better than you ever did before on Tetris? Whatever, said the Bachelor. Listen, said Chris Harrison, I need to know what's going on here. I'm getting word from my camera teams that you're only sending the women home that agree to have secret sex with you. This is not a good situation. Yes, so what, asked the Bachelor. It's all consensual, duh. It is secret sex. Some of the people on the camera crews have secret sex with these women too. I'm not ratting on them. Does Disney want to leak a sex tape or something? Because that isn't in my contract. Never mind about Disney, said Chris Harrison. I need to know if this is going to keep happening. If this is what your season is going to be all about. The Bachelor was silent. His eyebrows cranked up around the corners of his face. He looked confused. Maybe, said the Bachelor. Are you truly taking this journey seriously? Asked Chris Harrison. Sure, man, said the Bachelor. Sure. I want to find my wife out there. I just want to make sure that I don't miss out on fucking somebody who will fuck me for basically no reason, while I whittle all the ladies down to one really, really special person. That does not seem like a very mature or healthy attitude, said Chris Harrison. Come on, said the Bachelor. You would do the same thing. I'm playing a little GTA in your Sim City. So what? So what? My journey is real. My journey just has a few more spontaneous blowjobs and hot tubs. I'm looking for a wife here. I need to see these ladies from every angle, including, from the top down. Chris Harrison got up off the couch. He didn't even make it to the door before Tetris blocks began to fall again, making his teeth rattle, making birds fly out of a single tree in the center of the perfectly manicured front Disney lawn. I need you to find everything you can about his early life, said Chris Harrison to Propane, sipping goth black coffee through gritted teeth. I want everything. Dental records, school records, criminal records, hip-hop lyrics he quoted on his Facebook page, old MySpace posts. I want a comprehensive profile. Okay, said Propane. 5 minutes later, Propane found Chris Harrison again. He was sitting at his desk, just staring at the wall in silence. I found everything, said Pro, handing him a flash drive. A complete life history. No, said Chris Harrison. I need everything, secret stuff. I want a complete psychological profile. Yes, said Pro, pressing the flash drive into his hand. Chris Harrison frowned. I think you underestimate Bachelor Nation, said Pro. Chris Harrison kept frowning, staring at the flash drive in his palm. As soon as The Bachelor is announced, the internet goes to work, said Pro. There is no better detective force in this world than 1 million Americans scouring the internet at once. There's this girl in Houston that archives everything they find in a password-protected wiki. She gets a little stipend from Disney. She is thorough, trust me. I see, said Chris Harrison. The CIA doesn't have better reports about foreign dictators. Everything is in there. This is a terabyte drive. It is mostly full. Good luck. I can only tell you that it is very well indexed. I see, said Chris Harrison. You think maybe you could help me go through all this? Propane stared at him. Does this flash drive plug into my Mac, said Chris Harrison, or not? Propane took the flash drive out of his hand. 3 days later, while the Bachelor and Melissa, the patent attorney with thick glasses, were out on their traditional jumping off of something high date, Chris Harrison barged into the office of the Disney Sturmbannführer who oversaw the Bachelor and threw several pages worth of evidence that he printed out at Kinko's down on her desk. Nobody told me you worked for Disney before, said Chris Harrison. So what? She said. It was forever ago. She was stoned and watching The Little Mermaid on a tablet. Do you think it's possible that he's harboring some long-held resentments against the company that nobody knows about or remembers? Don't you think it's a bad idea to bring back a former child star to be a Bachelor star? Disney doesn't have a very good track record when it comes to forming young minds, So what, she said. Almost every Bachelor we've ever had has worked for Disney at some point. Really, said Chris Harrison. Yeah, when they were younger. It's easier that way. They already trust the company. I did not know that, said Chris Harrison. So what? Who cares what you know? He's gone CAD, said Chris Harrison. He's gone super CAD. He's fucking everybody. So what, said the producer. That's the show. It seems pathological, said Chris Harrison. People love him. You're paranoid. Pro, what happens to the fantasy suite sex tapes that Disney makes us film, asked Chris Harrison later. Where do those go? I don't know, said Pro. I guess it's just leverage. They hold on to all that. Do they pick it up and take it away from you guys, asked Chris Harrison, or does Disney do all the filming for that internally? Who sees those films? I've never seen you so interested in, the process before, said Pro. I need to know. Whatever Disney does with those tapes is totally obscure and hidden. It is the cream of The Bachelor for sure. What is a romance novel without the steamy sex scene? But I guess only super VIPs get to watch that stuff. Maybe someday when we're all dead, Disney will release full cuts of the show and show all the gross, awesome, real shit that happens in these people's silly, douchey lives. Maybe, said Chris Harrison. Chris Harrison queued up Jennifer P's latest confessional and watched it again. Jennifer P., the one who worked in a beauty salon and had known The Bachelor since childhood, seemed far more focused and determined than most Bachelor contestants. But Jennifer P.'s confessional interviews were a revelation. She truly had feelings for this video game playing slug. Chris Harrison was a little bit amazed. Chris Harrison buzzed the house and sent for her to come visit him at the production office. She was quick as a bird. That was the greatest thing about Reelys. In fact, the lowliest script proofreader would make you wait an extra hour if you called a meeting with him, just to be strong on you. But an unpaid contestant in a crooked emotional game show, they were as punctual as dividends. So what was he like as a kid? Chris Harrison asked Jennifer P. He was so kind and sweet, said Jennifer P. He lived on the next street over, and he would always help all the younger kids on the street make it to the bus stop without getting run over by cars. He would make sure they remembered their backpacks and their lunches. He just used to wrangle those kids. He was so smart. He was skinnier back then, not so many, muscles. What happened to him, asked Chris Harrison. When he went away to be on that show for Disney, everything changed, said Jennifer P. You mean he got a big head? No, it was something else. He got real bitter and brutal and cynical. There was still this perfect internal natural kindness. Nothing can get rid of that, but he was meaner now. I mean, I knew his sister. We were in the same grade, and she said that sometimes he would just spend all night crying for no reason. He would be away for 6 months out of every year, and then when he came home, he was so restless and scared. Of course, we all worshipped him in school. How could you not? He was Lopez on Kid Dance Dream Genius. I'm not ashamed to say it. I had a poster of the show in my closet. So it was a big deal. It was a big deal in our little town. He went away to go be on television, and it broke something in him. Maybe I can fix it, I wish I knew what happened to him on that show. I wish I knew what they did to him to make him feel so, small inside. Chris Harrison put his hand out to shake. Good luck on The Bachelor, Chris Harrison said. Thanks, she said shyly. A word of advice, Chris Harrison said. Don't tell him your secret until the hometown dates. That will be good television. If I make it that far, said Jennifer P. As long as you don't sleep with them, you should be fine, said Chris Harrison, surprising himself. He hadn't intended to say anything. Jennifer P. laughed. No, seriously, said Chris Harrison. Don't tell anyone back at the house, but he's sending home all the women who sleep with him. Just keep that in your back pocket. Jennifer P. did not seem shocked. She pursed her lips and straightened her skirts. I'm sorry, The Bachelor told Dakota from Nevada. I thought you would be the one. We had a real connection. Ever since you got out of the limo and you're dressed up like a living slot machine, you told me to pull your handle, then you kissed me for my prize. I thought we really had something, but I just don't think we can continue on our journey together. I understand, said Dakota through sobs. I know you told me that you love me, said The Bachelor, and I've certainly been developing feelings of love for you, but our relationship just hasn't progressed as fast as the relationships with some of the other girls, and I don't want to break your heart later. I understand, said Dakota. Oh my God, I will miss you. You were my best friend. They hugged. She sobbed. Chris Harrison was at the library, leafing through illuminated pages of Dante in the original Latin, trying to remain calm, trying to fight off the early stages of a panic attack that had been coming on for a week now. His Disney phone rang. Everyone in the library glared at him. He pushed through the nearest exit door into a glass atrium. A buzzer went off while the door was open, but stopped as soon as the door clicked shut behind him. We just got an email, said Judy. It's really bad email. It's a really, really bad email. What is it, said Chris Harrison. Well, there's this nonprofit called ChildSafe that sort of lurks on the internet, scouring it to find old child pornography and trying to find the children in it in order to find out where they are now. There's a massive amount of child pornography from the early 80s just, circulating. Those were the days of the first home video recorders. Anyway, ChildSafe uses facial recognition software to scan elementary and junior high school yearbooks and match that up to people in this old child pornography. Okay, said Chris Harrison. The Bachelor. It's come up positive in a tape. Okay, said Chris Harrison. I watched it, said Judy. I demanded to watch it. You aren't gonna like this. Okay, said Chris Harrison. It looks like it maybe was filmed in the studio for Kid Dance Dream Genius. You can sort of see some of the early KDDG promotional materials. Child Safe wants to know what to do. Who is the producer of Kid Dance Dream Genius? Asked Chris Harrison. Chuck Wendy, said Judy. A big Disney guy. He produced maybe 30 shows for the Disney Channel. He's dead, right? Asked Chris Harrison. Oh yeah, he's dead as fuck, said Judy. Chris Harrison sat down in the concrete of the library atrium. He kicked open the exit door and started to buzz again. Chris, what do we do, Chris? Mike isn't returning my calls. I don't even think he's in the country. I think he's in St. Kitts, preparing the fantasy suites. Chris, what do we do? St. Kitts had a good bar and a bad bar. Chris Harrison and Mike Fleiss, the producer of The Bachelor, both preferred the bad bar. Yeah, Chuck Wendy was a giant for Disney in the 80s and early 90s. He built our cable presence, said Mike Fleiss, the producer for The Bachelor. He built the Disney Channel. And he was a pedophile, said Chris Harrison. A giant pedophile, said Mike Fleiss. A tremendous, mighty, towering pedophile. The Jupiter of pedophiles. A brilliant, horrible, genius-level pedophile. And no one even knew until right before his second heart attack. The waitress brought their shots of whiskey. They drank. So one of the kids he molested files a lawsuit, said Mike Fleiss, after he's dead. We knew it was going to happen eventually. Disney manages to keep it under wraps, but the kid is pissed. He isn't the suicidal type. He's the homicidal type, if you catch my drift. Okay, said Chris Harrison. Shots came again and they drank. I've seen the deposition, said Mike Fleiss. This kid is smart. He knows that he is about to bring down the entire Disney Corporation. He is ecstatic about it. And then one of the lawyers asked him how they can possibly make it right, you know? Money? No amount of money will possibly shut him up. What then? The kid thinks about it. He says he wants Disney to round up women for him to molest like Chuck Wendy rounded up little boys. He is pissed. He says he has a mountain of poison inside him that he's going to have to get rid of if he ever wants to get married. He says he wants to, torture these women on national television. He says that at the end of it all, he wants to be a star. He wants to be beloved for torturing these women, just like Chuck Wendy was beloved even though he was a child molester. The kid sits back and crosses his arms. Disney lawyers call a recess in the deposition. And then, The Bachelor. We have turned misery into gold, my friend. Shots came. They drank. We don't really know how many people Chuck Wendy molested back in the 80s and 90s, said Mike Fleiss. But every time one white, it's hard. Wendy liked brawny, dumb, white Southern California boys. This whole show is just reparations for the boys that Disney molested. Yep. And obviously, The Bachelorette is reparations for women molested on The Bachelor. Everyone wins. This is sick, said Chris Harrison. This whole show is sick. Nonsense, said Mike Fleiss. We are doing good work. We are healing broken hearts. Chris Harrison was back in Texas. He hadn't slept for days. Your princess phone keeps ringing, said Ashford Luis Levy, also known as Dip, on account of the bulging water Dip that always pooched his lower lip out. Yup, said Chris Harrison. The bar they were in was so dark because it was the brightest part of the morning. They had been drinking all night and the doors were locked, but the bartender was still serving them drinks. Fucking hate that song, said Ashford Luis Levy. When you wish upon a star, can't you turn the ringer off at least? Nope, said Chris Harrison. Well, do something, man, said Dip. Chris Harrison motioned to the bartender for another beer, a pint. The bartender pulled the pint and slid it over. Chris Harrison took a long sip, draining off the foam in 3 fingers worth of beer, and he dropped the foam into the pint of beer. It didn't stop ringing. The pint vibrated and rattled on the bar. Bubbles started to spill out of the top. Finally, there was a sharp crackle and a bright blue electric flash. The song stopped playing. Chris Harrison put his pinky in the pint of beer. It was warm. Smoke was curling from the top. He took a sip. It was fine. Thank you.
Piano, too, guys. All right, so.